Thank you for joining us again. This is Bly and Holly at 34 Vampires, and welcome to our next video, and I hope you enjoy. So people go into narrowboat life for various reasons. For us, it was very much to get out of the rat race, it was for privacy, it was for time to be together, and for life challenges as well. Bly puts it really well. He says, you know, if a river isn't flowing, it's stagnant. So from that point of view, we wanted something that was going to challenge us, you know, throw up the odd hurdle, help us get to the point where we were sort of real good problem solvers and things like that. And it was about living rather than existing, and that was really important to us, and that's something that narrowboat life has definitely brought forward for us. So from our point of view, what we wanted to do was to throw ourselves in at the deep end, you know, those life challenges that we talked about. So we'd watched lots of videos on YouTube, had been doing that for a long time, but we'd never actually stepped foot on a narrowboat from the point of view of driving, you know, like cruising one or living on one or even staying on one. Renting one and doing a helmsman's course was something that we'd looked at, but we never ended up doing those things. It just felt so right to us that we decided that we were just going to throw ourselves in head first, and we did that by launching at Salthouse Dock. We didn't really know anything about it at the time, or rather we didn't launch at Salthouse, we launched nearby and just did the short cruise down to Salthouse. And from that point of view, we were there for 2 nights, and from then on we didn't actually realise that we had to go through tunnels under the Liver building and the locks that we would have to go through, other than they were manned. So that was our first thing that we kind of had to do from what was essentially our maiden voyage, which was a little bit scary. We didn't get any scratches, but as you can see, it was pretty sort of like full on. So yeah, talk about throw yourself in at the deep end. So the wonderful thing about continuous cruising is that your scenery changes all of the time. Other than the 14-day moorings, or there might be 24 hours or 48 hours, you're not restricted at all, other than obviously if the mooring spots aren't very good. So what it enabled us to do is just kind of make things up as we went along, not have a massive plan about what it was that we were going to do. We've never really had a plan as such with regards to cruising, other than moving down south, and we didn't even have a plan really as to how long that was going to take us. It was just going to take us as long as it did, and you can't really plan for something like that anyway from the point of view of stoppages. You know, we've had a lot of droughts this year and things like that, so we just wanted to take life as it came. And the wonderful thing about the continuous cruising is that no move or cruise is the same. There's constantly changing scenery, you come up against different problems, you know, that you navigate your way through, and so every time you move there's something different going on. It's, you know, it doesn't matter what you plan, something will always change, and it's just that beauty of being in the moment all of the time. So prior to moving onto the boat, we both lived in houses, and one of the things that we found about that was the stagnaticity of it. You know, every time it was like that, almost like 9 to 5, nothing changed, you always came back to the same place. And that's what's massively changed with being on the boat, is you have that freedom where everything keeps changing. You don't have that stagnaticity that you had before. You know, it was almost like the gardens went through the seasons and things like that, but it's really not the same as being out in the seasons on the canals and how everything changes, the sunsets and everything. It's just such a completely different way of life. So I have been asked by people, you know, what was it like giving up you know, your house, what was it about giving up your belongings and everything, and both of us always say it's been really liberating. You know, all of these things that we have spent so long and given up like hours of our life to buy, you know, sort of just that are belongings that really weren't needed, and giving them away just felt so liberating. It's really hard to explain all those things that we felt that we needed that we really didn't, and we, you know, we can honestly say we don't miss them at all, because obviously being on the boat we can only fit so many things, you know, and it's been from 2 houses, you know, everything getting rid of so that both lots of our things would fit onto the boat, and so we have very few belongings now. I think I got rid of about 8 or 10 black bags of clothes, and that was just me, but I haven't missed it at all. It's been absolutely brilliant, and to live that more simplicity in life is so good, and yeah, certainly don't miss any of that at all. One of the things that I really enjoyed over the summer was the bounty that the towpath was able to provide. So as you can see, we picked plums, blackberries, we also got sloes, and what else was it? We got the elderberries as well, and I was picking fresh flowers as well. So as Bloy says, it's about putting something in when you take something away. So we do a lot of litter picking as well, so that when we take something we're always putting something back in order to create that balance with the nature. So this barometer and bell were actually from my grandparents. I can remember even as a kid, like really young child, that they had them hanging up in the house, and so that was one of the things I inherited. So they've been beautiful to put onto the boat, and what we tend to find is having the barometer is really handy as well, because a lot of the time it's more accurate than the phone apps, you know, the weather apps. So if you have pets, it's obviously a really big consideration as to how they will cope on the boat. So in these photos you can see this was my cat Simba. He was 15, he was a Maine Coon cross, and I'd previously lost quite a few cats in their teens, so he was the only cat at the time, and my friend asked if she could have him. Which I agreed to. As you can see there, he's just settling into his new home. I went to visit him after about 10 days. He came over, said hello to me, and then practically ignored me. So settled in brilliantly, even though he'd moved in with other cats. So Simba was about 95% deaf. He'd always been a cat that went outside, you couldn't keep him in. He would just go absolutely mad climbing the walls. It really wasn't for him staying in, and because of his long fur and the fact that he was largely deaf, he didn't cope with vibration very well. So if you were drilling in the house or anything like that, it would completely freak him out. So we knew that the problem very much would be for him would be the boat engine, you know, the vibration, everything would really upset him. And also, you know, keeping doors closed, him going off. So some cats go off of boats, you know, and they come back, they've got their GPS trackers and things like that. But being at his age, being, you know, his deafness, the boat engine and things, we just didn't feel it was for him. But he's moved in with my friend so beautifully. She absolutely adores him, that in our instance, I know it was totally the best decision that we made for him. We're in our 50s now, so you know, sort of a little bit later in life going into boat life, so it's certainly something that we wished that we had done years before. Our 18-year-old granddaughter was living with us at the time, so it worked out quite good from the point of view of she turned 18, so it was easier for us to be able to leave. So from that point of view, everything kind of fell into place. So our attitude now is we just make the most of the years that are ahead, because obviously we have more years behind us than we have in front of us now. So it's all about enjoying and just living the life that we really, really want to, and making the most of every moment. Obviously, living on a boat means you're outside an awful lot more than you normally would be if you were living in a house, and so this is something that some people might struggle with the weather and things like that, rather than sort of being cozied up in your house all the time. So Bly is from a military background, and I had horses for 18 years that I kept at home, so I looked after them myself. So both of us are sort of used to the changing seasons, the getting wet, the being dressed in waterproofs and that kind of thing. So that side of things certainly wasn't a shock for us. But you know, if you are going into boat life and you've always sort of been a homestead person, then that's the kind of thing that you will have to get used to. Certainly in boat life, obviously you've got to be able to get on with the person that you're living with. You're living in such close proximity. So Bly and I have both got very different jobs. I will do a video on that another time, what we do to actually earn a living while we're living aboard. But we don't work very many hours a week at all, so because of that we probably spend about 90 to 95% of our time together. So obviously you've got to be able to get on. You're living in such a tight space all of the time. So as you can see in the video there, he was actually trying to get me a bit near the water, the bugger, but but yeah, we get on really, really well. I go as far as to say he's my best friend, so because of that we don't find it difficult living in close proximity. You know, we go off and we do our own things, but yeah, mainly we spend most of our time together, and that's not a problem for us, although obviously for some people it could be. So as we'd chosen to be continuous cruisers, it was really, really important for us to have the boat livable and exactly as we wanted it. So the first thing that we did think about was to maybe do a sail away. So that's just basically the basic shell with an engine. And for Bly to do the work, but obviously that's time consuming, takes time away from us, and also we would have been living on it whilst it was being all done inside. So what we decided to do in the end was actually get a boat built from scratch so that we could have it designed exactly how we wanted it. So there were lots of considerations, because obviously there are different types of layouts that you can have, but one of the things that we didn't want to be doing was walking through the bedroom all the time, and so we wanted also to be able to get out through the bow doors for when we were cruising. The only problem with that was it meant that either we had to have a bed that folded out, which would be an absolute pain in the backside because it means you'd be constantly folding it in and out all the time, or to go with a smaller bed. So we went from a 6-foot super king size bed to a double bed. and you know, so it's a bit of a tight squeeze, but we've got on fine, sleeping really well. And we had a washing machine put on, the others put in the boat as well. Another thing that we wanted as well was a Belfast sink, because obviously if we wanted to do any hand washing or anything like that, it gave us that bigger option with the sink. And also most boats obviously have a shower, but what we wanted to actually do was have a bath put in with the telephone tap, so that we had the option of the the shower fitting as well, besides having a bath. So another consideration for us was heating. So Bly wasn't too keen on having radiators. I did want radiators purely for sort of like a backup more than anything else. So it was always handy to have them if we ran out of solid fuel or wood. So we also had a Morso Squirrel multi-fuel stove put in. We had that put in the middle of the boat because I've noticed on some boat designs they have them sort of more down one end, and what we've noticed now that we're getting into the colder seasons is by having it in the middle it kind of heats the whole boat, but as you get to each end of the boat you can definitely feel it's cooler. So I would imagine if you've got it down one end of the boat, then potentially it could be problematic with coldness down the other end. So I think it was quite a wise move for us to actually have it put in the middle. The only thing we do find, because you're in such a small pace, it does get very dusty. So I'm forever cleaning, and you've got sort of like that grey dust about all the time. So that is a little bit problematic, but it's nothing that couldn't be sorted. And for the warmth it gives out, it's certainly worth it. Originally we'd thought about wooden floors, but what we ended up going with is the laminate vinyl flooring that looks like real wood. It's got the grain and everything in it, and we find that that's really easy to keep clean. And obviously you wouldn't have the same problems if you had leaks and things like that. You're not going to have the same potential problems of the swelling that you would do if it was actual wood. The windows that we've had fitted were the ones that the company put in anyway. That we didn't really sort of discuss the windows, but we're really pleased that we've got the ones that we have, because in the hotter weather you can actually lift the whole window out really easily. So that's really handy as well if you wanted to clean the windows the far side of the boat by the canal and everything. So yeah, being able to actually lift the windows out in that way, especially when I was mirroring the windows, putting the mirror film on made life an awful lot easier. So if you're thinking of having windows put into a boat, you know, if you're having one built, or if you're thinking of replacing windows, I would certainly recommend having the windows that you can actually lift out. Power wise, I would certainly recommend that you have as much solar fitted as you can, because obviously when the sun's out your electric's costing you nothing. So we've got 3 large solar panels. We've got the ones that are the soft panels that are contoured to the roof. Obviously you can get the hard ones that are on frames that also tilt. We also have a generator as well. We've got a Honda 22 EU that allows us to top up the leisure batteries, and also another way, obviously if your solar's low you can also run the engine, but we find that having the generator's better, because obviously if you keep running the engine too much you're clocking up the hours on the engine. That means more services. All in all, I don't think there's particularly anything that we would have changed about the design of the boat. When it was built from literally the steel plates that were just sort of like piled up on the floor to the finished boat in about 3.5 months. So it all moved really quickly. So there wasn't time always to sort of have the forethinking to have extra things done. Like in hindsight, we would have had a bit more fabrication done externally with sort of like hooks and things like that. But other than that, I don't really think that there's anything that we've missed out on. And yeah, we've had it built exactly as we want it. So if that's something that you're planning on doing, actually having one built from scratch, then really think about the planning beforehand and exactly what it is that you're after. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. I've got concentration.
Stop it.
Stop it. I'm not doing that.
You're not.
No. Stop
It's your lesson.
No, stop it. I'm going to need you in a minute and then it'll be like shit. And you'll be in the water.
Watch the ducks, babe.
No,
Watch the ducks.
move. So obviously, as neither of us had ever driven or cruised a narrowboat before, that was sort of throwing us both in the deep end. Bly was brilliant at it from the beginning. You saw earlier in the videos the tunnels that he went through after only having done about a mile. That's something, well, at the time he was doing that, I was actually sat on the steps with my hands over my eyes, I must admit. For me, I've done some driving and, you know, I will continue to. I need to get used to going through the narrower parts and everything. But one of the things that I was finding, and I don't know if this happens with other people, my mind would just go blank, you know, because of having to move the opposite way and things. And what really changed it for me was when Bly said, just feel the tiller. And when he said that, it kind of clicked and I really didn't have to think about it. Instead of sort of trying to think about it and think about opposites, I found that it just came naturally. So I know he's got plans anyway for me to get doing some more. On our last move, I was driving and I've no doubt he's going to get me to do a lot more of it now. When we're moored up and we're outside by the boat, we tend to get quite a few people on the towpath that will come and ask us about it. What's it like living on a boat? Often they'll say it's something that they've thought about, and we always say the same thing to people. If you've thought about it, don't waste time, just go and do it, because life's just too short, you know. You know, if you're saving up to buy a boat or if you've got a house to sell, those types of things, you know, all of that takes time. Put a plan into action and just go and live your dream, because, you know, life's just too short. The sooner you do it, the sooner you get to enjoy. If you've enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and I look forward to seeing you again. If you've got anything that you'd like to ask us, always feel free to put a question in the comments, and we'll be back again next week. Take care.